Hello everybody and welcome again at our GCP-Mindset channel. And my guests today are, again, you know them, Frank and Stephen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you.
Hello both, and thank you very much for being here again. In our last video we spoke about clinical research in Africa in general. Today we wanted to speak about clinical studies in South Africa.
That's right.
Yeah, and maybe we can start with South Africa in general. I mean, a lot of people, I think, know it from vacation, and I know a lot of people who love it there. Yeah, but maybe you can give me some more details about South Africa.
Thank you, Andreas, for that beautiful introduction. As we know, South Africa is the southernmost country in Africa, as the name suggests already. And it's a country with a general population of about 59 million persons. And the population is roughly divided into 80% of the people who are of African descent, and 20% from the European, Asian, and mixed population. South Africa is a newly industrialized country, according to the World Bank, and the economy in South Africa is faring well at the moment. But despite this positive trend in the economy of the country, you still have up to 1/4 of the population not employed. That said, South Africa has the second strongest economy in Africa, just behind Nigeria, that has over 200 million population. So they are faring well on that. To the health sector in South Africa. In general, we can say that South Africa has a very good healthcare system. This is also supported by the WHO and the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But just like every other country, the extent at which medical and healthcare is given to people in the major cities differs a little bit as compared to the rural area. So in the major cities, the infrastructure, the healthcare provision is very, very comparable and of high standard as compared to what we can get in the Western world. But in the rural area, they are lacking a little bit behind what you can get in the major city. Nonetheless, in general, medical advances and healthcare provision in South Africa is still sufficient. So even in the governmental institutions and in rural area where the healthcare is not comparable to that of the Western world, what you get is still at least sufficient in emergency cases. So it's not that people in the rural area are left behind completely. And the physician-patient ratio in South Africa is about 1 to 2,500. That means it's very. This is a low ratio. That means not a lot of people have access to a physician in South Africa. So these are characteristics of the country that could make it important for a sponsor, because the patient will be happy to be involved in any trial where they get some kind of medication, as compared to if they are completely left out and are unable to get any form of treatment.
Okay, very interesting. You just mentioned the major cities. I have been once in Johannesburg, and when I've been there to meet a very nice partner, they advised me not to go outside in the dark because it might be dangerous. There's a lot of crime. People are even killed for little money. Is this a problem for clinical studies? I mean, I'm aware that capitals are usually not reflecting the whole country. Like Berlin is not Germany, and London is not UK, Paris is not France, and Prague is not Czech Republic. But how is it in Johannesburg? Is it typical for the whole country or just coincidence?
That's a very interesting question, Andreas. Generally, South Africa is a safe country. It's a politically stable country. And of course, you could find hotspots where crimes could be prevalent in South Africa, just the way you find such hotspots in other parts of the world, in other countries. So I would not assume that the situation you were introduced to is a South African specific phenomenon. So this can also be in other parts of the world as well.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that crime is not really a problem for clinical research in South Africa, because I liked it also very much there, and I didn't feel so unsafe there, I need to say. But now I change a little bit the perspective. Imagine I'm a biotech company, a sponsor. Yeah, and most sponsors have problems with recruitment. So could you please convince me from South Africa is a nice place to run my clinical study?
In the whole of Sub-Saharan Africa, South Africa is the country with the most clinical trials conducted successfully, according to clinicaltrial.gov. And apart from that, as I mentioned already, the infrastructure in the country is very good, at least in the major cities. And even the healthcare system, also at least in a major city, is comparable to what is attainable in the Western world. Apart from that, the patient-physician ratio is about 1 to 2,500, which means you have this ratio is very low. You have too many patients for one physician. So patients are very happy to get any form of treatment they could get. This is a kind of a motivation and would also improve subject retention in a trial, that the patient are not jumping out of the trial because they're going somewhere to get some kind of treatment. Another very important point is the drug-naive patient population. Of course, you know, South Africa, even if it's a newly industrialized country, is a country in Africa, which is social-cultural and social-political trends. So you still have a high population of people that have not been exposed to different kind of modern drugs, as I would call them. So the population of people that would have the right, if I could call it, system to participate in the trial without prior introduction to other kind of drugs is very high. The other point is the economic situation in South Africa. Of course, it's a newly industrialized country, but as I mentioned already, about 1/4 of the people are without a job. So even the physicians that have a job are happy to participate in clinical trials, both on the financial aspect, because they will gain from it, and also for the medical and reputation aspect, because they are very happy to be part of a trial that is conducted globally, and that would improve their standing in their respective domain. So another beautiful point to see why clinical trials will be successful in South Africa is that you have a very heterogeneous population. So as we know, in preclinical science, the genetics of everything is very important in order to create a very strong drug, if being it vaccines and you name it. And that is one of the reasons why, like in this pandemic situation with COVID-19, some of the trials are already running in South Africa as well. And this is another standing to show that South Africa should be a very important country that should be included for clinical trials, at least if we want to have a very broad spectrum of the world population. So in general, I would say the political situation, coupled with the economic uprising and with the possible willingness of physicians to be very much engaged in clinical trials, and a lot of naive patient population, these are characteristics that makes South Africa stand out in the perspective of where clinical trials have to be conducted.
Okay, thank you very much. But as a sponsor, I would wonder now, you say the ratio between physicians and patients is so that you have too many patients. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I could think maybe we have too little number of investigators then. Do we have enough trained investigators in South Africa?
Yes, there are, as I mentioned, at least in the major cities. Yeah. South Africa is a very industrialized research country. Yeah. If we want to go there, they have very good institutions, world-class institutions that could compete with institutions in Europe, and you have physicians that are all working in these institutions. So, of course, the physician or investigators number is not the problem. The problem is the population of South Africa as compared to the number of investigators available. As I mentioned, there are about 59 million people in South Africa. So compared to other countries where they have a total population of just 4 million or 5 million. So this patient investigation ratio could sometimes kind of be a little bit misleading in the total sense of it. So I don't believe there would be an issue with lack of investigators in South Africa.
Okay, Frank, in our last video about clinical studies in Africa in general, we spoke also about the indications in medical areas, and you just said that South Africa is one of the most developed countries of Africa. But do we have the same indications there, or is it due to this developed untypically compared to the other African countries?
Many thanks, Andreas, for that question. As I mentioned in our previous video, due to globalization, behaviors, the way people consume stuff, general attitude are becoming similar. And it's only understandable that if the way people eat, the way people live, if this is synchronized, it should not be surprising that the indications, that's the ailment, sickness that is predominant in this country are becoming similar as well. Yeah. So in South Africa, there are three big indications that I will be looking at. The first is in the infectious disease, for example, HIV/AIDS. There, as I mentioned in our previous video already, about Africa makes up about 17% of the world population, and just 60% of the HIV infected people are found in Africa, and in South Africa even more, and in Southern Africa. So this is a country and a region where this indication would be successful in terms of sorting out for suitable subjects. The other indication will be in the area of metabolism or the metabolic diseases. This is very understandable. As I mentioned already, people eat the same way, people have almost the same consumption habits, fast food everywhere nowadays. So of course, diseases like diabetes and so on are also prevalent even in South Africa as well. And then we can talk about oncology indication, where cervical cancer is on the rise in Africa and also in South Africa. So cardiovascular disease as well are also on the rise. So these are the areas, these are the indication that I will be looking at as a sponsor if I want to have a very good recruitment rate and retention, not just recruitment, also retention rate in a trial in South Africa.
Okay. So let's change a little bit, because that's also, I'm worrying as a sponsor about the timelines to get a study started. And then I would wonder, how does it work in South Africa? I think you are an expert for submissions to the competent authority, to the ethics committees. How does it work? What kind of deadlines do they have?
Now, so I would say the timelines in South Africa are also very encouraging. So as Frank said earlier, South Africa already has they have these established regulatory authorities. So when we start with the competent authority, submission of clinical projects until approval can take up to between 10 and 12 weeks, and that is technically a good timeline which most sponsors can deal with. But the process is not just fast, they have strict processes in place which they need to follow. For the competent authority, for example, when you submit a clinical project, what happens is 15 days afterward, before the project is reviewed by the committee, there is kind of like a pre-screening where they would look at the project and provide the applicant feedback after 15 days. So they can give you positive feedback and tell you, okay, we're going to move ahead with this project, or maybe it's rejected. And if they decide to move ahead with this project, then the committee now sits and meet. So before the committee sits and meet, you have 7 days to give a reply after this pre-screening. And after that, what happened? The committee now sits and meet, and they need the time and space of 6 to 8 weeks. And after that 6 to 8 weeks period has elapsed, or after the committee has met, they must provide you a response after 10 working days. And if your project is approved, then you can now proceed to conducting the trial. But if it is not approved, you have 7 days to either provide any missing or outstanding documents or information, or you can even request a face-to-face meeting with the competent authority committee. So in general, as I said, you should be looking at 10 to 12 weeks period to get feedback from the competent authority.
And do you submit in parallel to ethics committee and competent authority?
Yes, so you can do in South Africa, you can do the submissions in parallel, and even when you get when the competent authority is giving you feedback after reviewing your protocol, they can say it has been approved pending feedback from the ethics committee. So there is always this correspondence or communication or networking between the applicants, the ethics committee, and the competent authority.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we want to look also into the ethics committee, the ethics committee will follow technically the same timeline from 10 to 12 weeks. But something interesting about the structure of the ethics committee in South Africa is they have what they call a national health research ethics council. So it's like the main body where all local and institutional ethics committee are registered. So they are the main function of this national health research ethics council is they are providing the guidelines which all the local and institutional ethics committee around the country need to follow. And from time to time, they also perform audits to ensure that this local ethics committee are functioning according to the guidelines. And if there is a misconduct somewhere, there will be a penalty for sure. And so you can see how the country has set up these bodies in place to regulate the conduct of clinical trials in their country.
Okay, cool. So even ethics committees can be audited?
So the national, you have the national ethics research council that audits the local idea, just to ensure that they are following the national guidelines that have been put into place.
Okay, that would be also a good process for Germany, for sure. Very interesting. Thanks, Stephen. Well explained. And when I listen to you, I think we have similar timelines compared to Europe. We have more patients, a bigger patient population, and especially a lot of treatment naive patients.
Right.
So a lot of advantages to do studies in Africa or in South Africa.
That's
correct?
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So let's do more studies in South Africa then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and maybe we can think about another video we produce together about another African country. Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, for sure, Andrea. So for our next videos, I think we should be looking into Nigeria, a country with a population of over 200 million, as well as Rwanda, a country which is showing great interest in innovation. So there we might be looking into trials in the direction of medical device studies.
Great, Stephen. Thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to that because I don't know anything about these countries. Yeah, it will be great. Thank you both guys
Thank you,
to
Andreas.
speak with me about South Africa. It was really interesting. I also hope that you liked our video. Please leave your comments, send us your questions. Please subscribe to our channel and to your channel, CS Talk, please. And see you the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.